Who gives the Saints the best chance to try and go back and win the championship that I think they felt they had a good shot to win last year? Which quarterback gives them the best chance to do it this season?
Oh, it's Jameis Winston, and it's not even close. It's Jameis Winston. But I have concerns about where they are with Jameis Winston right now, and it's because they don't have Michael Thomas. I mean, Jameis Winston has always had a 1. Think about his time at Florida State, Kelvin Benjamin. Think about his time in Tampa Bay, Mike Evans. He doesn't have a 1 right now with Michael Thomas hurt and going to be missing time. And my question for Jameis, because, you know, the whole thing is, how does Jameis become a little bit more of an efficient quarterback and a completion-driven quarterback, but also the big play guy? You know, how does he do that without a true number 1 receiver, without a number 1 reliable receiver? Traquan Smith has 80 catches. And I start to think, well, how does a quarterback try to shake the narrative of you're trying to do too much with the football in a situation because of the roster and the injuries where for him to play well and the team to play well, you're going to have to try to do too much with the football if Michael Thomas misses a ton of time. And I think Jameis has to be super cautious of that.
What do you think, Lewis? I agree with what he's saying. The Michael Thomas thing has been a problem now, excuse me, going into its 2nd season. What is the impact of that on the potential of Jameis really getting it turned around?
Well, it's huge. I mean, it's huge. And we all know that for years, people have known that Michael Thomas is the number 1 in New Orleans. For years, people have known that he is the guy that they're going to go to in all situations that they got to have it. And he still was able to rack up 100-plus year after year after year. So, I mean, to not have him there, that's a huge issue. But what this is a great opportunity for Jameis Winston to really say, hey, look, I'm a changed quarterback. I'm a guy who doesn't necessarily need to have that go-to guy in order to be a risk-adverse, efficient quarterback that is not the reason why we lose games like I was in Tampa Bay. But in fact, I'm the reason why we are getting ourselves in the position to win some games, and in fact winning some games because I have grown, I have learned. I am a guy who can elevate the play of everyone else around me, and I still have one of the best offensive lines in football. I have one of the best running backs in football. And I can tell you this, I bring a component to this game, to this team, that they didn't have in the past. And that is efficiency throwing the ball deep, which Sean Payton likes to do. I had this conversation with him last year. He has those plays in his arsenal. For some reason, they weren't always called and or executed the way that they wanted them to with Drew Brees. But maybe Jameis can do that. And there are some reports that down there in training camp, he is doing that. He is hitting big plays down the field in a way that they haven't seen in the recent past. It's a great opportunity for him in some circumstances that are not ideal.
That feels like a really big part of what they might be able to add this year. So that said, we're going to a little later try and pick a team that we think will go from worst to first this year. But there's always the potential for a team that finished first last year to finish last this season. So I don't know that I said that correctly, but you understand what I'm saying. Who might go from first to worst this year? Let's go around the horn. Orlovsky, of all the first-place finishers last year, who do you think is likeliest to finish last in their division this year?
I'm going to say the New Orleans Saints. I think they trend a lot to be the 2019-2020 New England Patriots. First of all, obviously the loss of Drew Brees, a Hall of Fame quarterback, who last year at 70% completion percentage, 24 touchdowns, 6 picks, still played really, really good, efficient football. They are losing right now their number 1 receiver in Michael Thomas. Emmanuel Sanders, their number 2 receiver, is gone. Their starting tight end is gone. And then on the defense side, they're missing their starting defensive end. Trey Hendrickson is gone. They're super young at linebacker, and they lost Janoris Jenkins. So this is a team that lost a lot of really good players. I think everybody in the division is going to be very good. If I have to pick one, I'm picking the Saints.
Perez?
I know you're going to hate this, Greeny. I'm going with the Washington football team. And part of it's simple math. This is the only first-place team that last year finished 2.5 games better than the last-place team in its division, right? They don't have far to fall to get to that point. And I know people are excited, and the defense looks good. I'm still thinking to myself, look, Ryan Fitzpatrick, 16 years in the NFL, never been on a playoff team. Ron Rivera, 10 years as an NFL head coach, has 3 winning seasons. Great guys. We root for them, but the track record really isn't there.
Okay, so he's got Washington. Lewis, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Saints as well. Because, look, most of the division winners, the rich got richer this offseason, and their teams either stayed the same at the very least or got stronger, as far as, at the very best. And with the Saints, it's just not the case. When you lose that number of weapons on the offensive side of the football, and you have that kind of uncertainty at quarterback, although I have been someone who believes that Jameis is going to be better and he's going to shock people as far as his maturity and growth that he experienced last year, then it really does throw things up in the air. And the defense, having some of the pieces missing that they're going to miss this year and having some of the struggles they're having, it's particular at corner, how that position could totally get thrown sideways in the secondary. I think this is a team that could be in trouble in a pretty strong division.
Fair enough. But I think we left out the obvious one, and that is the best division in football is the NFC West, where Seattle was only this much better than everyone else, and everyone else got better. The Rams got much better at quarterback. The Cardinals have added a ton, and San Francisco's getting everybody back healthy and may have a dynamic, new, young quarterback. I think there's a real chance that Seattle, by staying right where they were, winds up going from first to worst in the NFC West. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.